There were so many times in my early recovery where I felt completely discouraged because I wasn't getting better as fast as I wanted to. I kept looking at my anxiety and thinking, nothing is changing, and I was ready to just throw in the towel.
It is so easy to fall into that trap when we're weary. But today at the cafe, we are talking about the expectation to change. And we have a major reminder for anyone listening. Don't quit before the miracle happens.
Yeah.
We are only on principle 2.
Yeah.
In Philippians chapter 1, the Word of God gives us an incredible promise that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Jesus is walking right beside us through every single step.
Right.
True Christian wellness means recognizing that while life without Christ is a hopeless end, with him, it is an endless hope. Today, let's talk about why your healing is closer than you think and why we can dare to hope again.
I want to just pause the conversation right there for a second and look directly at you, the person listening to this. Are you tempted to walk away from your recovery right now because the changes are, happening slower than you expected?
That's the real question.
Yeah, I want you to really hold that question in the quiet spaces of your mind. Are you standing on the edge, looking at the sheer effort it takes to just, get out of bed some mornings and thinking about just giving up the fight?
It's a heavy place to be.
It really is. And we have to confront that deep, draining heaviness today. The kind of heavy where your bones feel like lead and your mind is just running of circles, telling you that your current baseline is permanent.
Right, the lie that this is as good as it gets.
Exactly. Our entire mission for this conversation is to confront that specific weariness. We need to establish that real, lasting change is not some sudden magic trick. It's a highly intentional, heavily contested journey.
Yeah, completely contested.
You are not at the end of your story, even if it feels like the final chapter. You're standing right in the middle of a massive construction zone.
And that construction zone is where the most dangerous vulnerability lies, I think. When we talk about the danger of the early quit, we rarely mean a dramatic, loud exit.
Right, it's never like that.
No, very few people storm out of recovery shouting that they are done. The early quit is almost always this quiet, insidious fade.
Yeah.
It happens when we're carrying the weight of emotional hurts or navigating those relentless, invisible waves of anxiety, and our minds simply become drained.
Well,
You start rationalizing.
Oh, the rationalization is huge. You skip a Friday night meeting because you tell yourself you're just protecting your peace.
Yes. Or you just feel too heavy to get in the car.
Exactly. Then you skip another because the heaviness compounds. Then you stop praying about the anxiety because it feels like you're just, speaking into a void.
It's because we crave a sudden overnight transformation. We want to go to sleep heavy and wake up completely unburdened.
Which makes sense, right?
It does. Because we live in a culture that engineers instant gratification into the very fabric of our daily lives.
Yeah.
So we project that toxic expectation onto our spiritual and mental healing.
Yeah, we expect a quick fix.
We look at a lifelong wound, put a month of effort into it, and demand to know why it still hurts.
The friction there is immense, though. We are conditioned by a world that eliminates waiting entirely. You want food, it arrives at your door in 20 minutes.
Right.
You want entertainment, you stream it instantly. You want validation, you post a photo and get a hit of dopamine in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Our baseline expectation for reality is just immediacy.
Yeah, we hate the wait.
We do. So when you step into the realm of Christian wellness and you stare down principle 2, you hit a concrete wall of reality. You're asked to engage in this profound patience check.
Which is incredibly uncomfortable.
Totally uncomfortable. You have to fundamentally dismantle your mind's demand for immediate results and learn how to endure a steady, God-led journey. But here's the pushback I hear all the time.
Let's hear it.
And it's a pushback I wrestled with violently in my own quiet moments. Why do we logically expect lifelong emotional hurts or decades of deeply ingrained anxiety to disappear after a few weeks?
Right.
More importantly, if God is truly all-powerful, why doesn't he just bypass the process? Why doesn't he just instantly remove the pain rather than taking us through this excruciatingly slow, drawn-out timeline?
That question right there, that is the crucible of our faith. If you can do anything, why leave us in the tension?
Exactly.
To grasp this, we have to look closely at the mechanics of what God is actually building within us. He isn't interested in mere behavior modification. He isn't applying a cosmetic patch over a structural fracture.
He wants the foundation.
Yes. He's interested in total foundational transformation. If God were to simply wave a hand and erase all the pain, the triggers, and the anxiety instantly, You would certainly feel a sense of relief in that immediate moment.
Sure, it would feel great for a minute.
But you would remain spiritually and emotionally fragile. You wouldn't have learned anything about relying on his strength.
Wow.
You wouldn't have developed the spiritual endurance required to navigate a world that is still fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
The changes we so desperately long for are built incrementally because the process itself is the mechanism of change.
Wait, let me make sure I'm following the logic here because that's huge. You're arguing that the slow pace is not a punishment for past mistakes.
Not at all.
And it's not a sign of divine indifference, like he's just ignoring us. The slow pace is actually the active environment where our resilience is manufactured.
Exactly. Think about the process of tempering steel. You don't just take a piece of iron, heat it up once, mold it, and call it a sword.
Right.
A blade like that would shatter the second it struck anything solid.
Yeah.
To make steel resilient, it has to be heated in the fire, shaped, rapidly cooled, reheated, stressed, and struck repeatedly.
Over and over.
Yes, that slow, intense, repetitive process actually alters the molecular structure of the metal. It aligns everything so the blade can absorb massive impact without breaking.
So when we demand an instant fix,
We're asking to remain fragile. We're asking God to skip the tempering process. God is taking his time with you because your future requires resilience.
man, that changes the whole perspective on waiting.
It does. When we tell you don't quit before the miracle happens, we have to redefine the miracle. The miracle is not a sudden flash of lightning that magically fixes your struggles.
Right, it's not a magic wand.
The miracle is the slow, quiet, undeniable realignment of your soul's structure. It's the incremental step-by-step healing that ensures your foundation is solid enough to hold the immense weight of the calling on your life.
That's incredible.
So when you give up right before a breakthrough, it's usually because you've confused the length of the tempering process with the absence of the Creator. You feel the heat, you feel the strike, and you think, he must have abandoned me.
Yeah.
But the truth is, he is taking his time because his hands are actively on you.
Confusing the length of the process with the absence of God, that is the exact lie that thrives in isolation.
Absolutely thrives.
When you are in the thick of a deeply heavy day, when your mind is so unutterably drained that performing basic daily tasks feels like moving underwater, the timeline becomes an oppressor.
It feels like an enemy.
It really does. You look at the calendar and think, another month, and I'm still battling the same recurring thought pattern. But shifting the perspective to see the process as active tempering completely reframes the pain.
It gives it purpose.
It means that every single day you choose to stay in the process, every day you choose to just show up despite the weariness, you're actively participating in your own miracle. You're allowing the steel to be struck one more time without shattering.
And staying in that process requires a profound level of courage, specifically because of the friction it creates. Mental wellness requires us to confront the severe tension between our human desire for an easy exit and God's invitation into a deeper dependency on him.
Yeah, we always want the easy exit.
We do. When we are drained, our default mechanism is retreat. We want to shrink our world down to the size of our bedroom.
Just close the door and hide.
Exactly. We tell ourselves that recovery works for other people, people with less complicated histories, but not for us. That rationalization is the hallmark of the early quit.
It is.
We have to recognize that the frictions you feel, that deep discomfort of waiting and working, is often the primary evidence that the change is actually taking root. Growth in this area is never comfortable. It's disruptive.
It is entirely disruptive, and I think this leads us directly into the deepest, most terrifying pivot of the recovery journey.
Where's that?
Well, once you finally accept the reality that recovery is a slow, deliberate, tempering process, a new, much heavier fear immediately sets in.
Okay, right.
You look at the massive road stretching out ahead of you, you take an inventory of how incredibly drained you already feel today, and you conclude, I am not strong enough to survive this timeline.
Yes. The lack of strength.
Exactly. You think, I do not have the internal willpower to fight this anxiety, to manage these triggers every single day for the rest of my life.
Because the burden of generating your own strength day after day is entirely unsustainable. It will crush you. And it will crush you because you were never engineered to carry it in the first place.
Right.
This is where we have to shift our focus and look closely at the profound structural reassurance provided in the Word of God. Let's examine Philippians chapter 1, verse 6.
Yes, let's go there.
It reads, He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. We need to let the sheer weight of those words settle into the room. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion.
When you isolate the phrasing in that verse, it executes a complete transfer of responsibility.
Exactly.
It does not say, he who began a good work in you hopes that you can muster the willpower to finish it.
Right.
It doesn't say, he who began a good work in you will check back in 10 years to see if you manage to hold it together.
Yeah.
It declares that he will carry it on to completion.
Yes.
It places the ultimate responsibility for the final outcome entirely on his shoulders.
And that transfer of responsibility fundamentally alters the physics of Christian wellness. If Jesus is the one actively carrying the work to completion, it means your ultimate recovery does not hinge on a flawless human track record.
Which is such a relief.
We have this tendency to treat our mental health journey like a corporate performance review.
Oh, completely.
We tally up our good days in one column and our bad days in the other. If we have a panic attack on a Thursday after 3 weeks of peace, we view it as a massive failure.
Like we're back at square one.
Exactly. Like a sign that we have let God down and ruined the progress.
Yeah.
But God is not standing over you with a clipboard grading your mood stability.
Yeah.
He is down in the dirt with you. Your healing depends entirely on His faithfulness, not your flawless execution.
The practical relief of that truth is just staggering. Let's put this into a very real context for the listener.
Let's do it.
It's Tuesday morning, you woke up late, the house is chaotic, your responsibilities are piling up, and before you even have a chance to breathe, that familiar, suffocating dread settles directly into your chest.
We've all been there.
Right. In the past, the isolated mind says, I have to fix my attitude. I have to suppress this dread. I have to manufacture enough fake energy to get through this day, and I have to do it alone.
Which just drains you faster.
It does. But if we're actually applying Philippians chapter 1, verse 6, the response changes entirely. You don't have to put on a brave face. You can stand in your kitchen, feel the crushing weight of the anxiety, and say, I am completely out of strength today.
Yes.
I have nothing left to give. I cannot finish this work on my own. Acknowledging your total lack of capacity isn't a failure. It's the exact prerequisite for letting Christ do the heavy lifting in you.
That scenario right there is the perfect illustration of applied theology. Theology that doesn't put on work boots and walk into a chaotic Tuesday morning is useless to us.
Yeah, it's just theory otherwise.
Exactly. Acknowledging Jesus as a walking partner in that specific moment requires a radical, conscious shift from isolation to continuous connection.
Continuous connection.
Yes. When that dread creeps in, the mind practicing principle 2 interrupts the spiral. You pause in the middle of the kitchen and say, Lord, I am totally overwhelmed. I am feeling the physical weight of this day.
Wow, yeah.
I cannot carry this anxiety, so I am actively transferring it to you. I am asking you to carry it for me as we walk through this next hour together.
It changes the entire internal monologue. You stop talking to yourself about how terrible everything is, and you start talking to him about what the two of you are facing together.
Precisely.
It moves the struggle from a solitary confinement cell to a shared journey. And I want to highlight that idea of continuous connection, because I think people get confused by that.
How so?
It doesn't mean you have to retreat to a silent room for an hour of meditation, which is great if you have the luxury of time, but most of us don't on a Tuesday morning.
Right. The kids are screaming, the dog needs out.
Exactly. Continuous connection is an open, running dialogue in your mind. It's a whispered, help me navigate this tense meeting, or a silent, give me the patience I do not naturally possess right now.
It's constant.
It's the constant, deliberate invitation of his presence into the gritty, frustrating, deeply draining moments of daily life.
And when you do that, you are tapping into a completely different reservoir of energy. When you attempt to muscle through a severe, heavy episode or a high-anxiety week on your own willpower, you are drawing from a well that has a finite bottom.
You'll run dry.
You will eventually run dry and become heavy, but when you recognize him as your walking partner, you are drawing from a river that never stops flowing.
I love that imagery.
Knowing that he walks beside us, actively carrying the work to completion, changes our ultimate trajectory. We stop comparing our current struggle to our past failures, and we lift our eyes to the horizon.
Yeah.
We have to clearly delineate the contrast here between a life attempting to manufacture wellness outside of God and a life securely anchored in him.
This brings us to the endless hope contrast. The Word of God draws a sharp, undeniable line here, and it is a truth we have to keep at the absolute forefront of our minds. Life without Christ is a hopeless end, but with him, it is an endless hope.
It's a stark contrast.
It is. Let's dissect the first half of that reality, a hopeless end. Let's look at the actual anatomy of trying to find healing completely outside of God.
Okay.
I know this territory intimately because I spent years trying to engineer my own mental wellness using only secular tools.
Mm,
You dive into the self-help trends. You consume literature that tells you that you are the master of your own
that book's
universe.
everywhere.
Right. That you just need to manifest positive outcomes or optimize your routine or simply grind harder until the anxiety submits to your willpower.
And it's exhausting.
It is. You chase peace through material security, thinking if I can just reach this specific salary bracket or buy this house or achieve this status, the heaviness will finally lift.
But it doesn't.
Never. You rely on temporary distractions like binge watching media, jumping into relationships, filling every quiet moment with noise just to numb the internal chaos for a few hours.
So when you trace those specific paths to their logical conclusions, why do they inevitably lead to a dead end for our mental health?
Because every single one of those strategies relies entirely on our own shifting circumstances and our own finite energy. If my peace is tethered to my financial security, then a sudden, unexpected medical bill doesn't just hurt my wallet.
It ruins your peace.
It completely destroys my foundational peace. If my mental wellness depends on a guru's 10-step optimization plan, the moment I am too weary to complete step 4, I am plunged right back into despair.
Right.
If my comfort is derived from an external distraction, the very second the screen goes dark and the room falls silent, the anxiety is sitting right there on the couch next to me.
It's waiting for you.
It's a hopeless end because it demands that I serve as the sole architect, builder, and funder of my own salvation, and I simply do not possess the internal capital to save myself from the brokenness of my own mind.
No one does.
Yeah.
That is the mathematical certainty of the human condition outside of grace. A hopeless end is the guaranteed result of relying on finite resources to heal infinite wounds.
Finite resources for infinite wounds.
When your foundation is built on temporary circumstances, any shift in the wind will compromise the integrity of the structure. This is exactly why so many people feel completely drained by the modern secular wellness industry.
It really is draining.
It masquerades as empowerment, but it actually places a crushing burden on the individual. The underlying message is always, if you aren't feeling better yet, it's because you haven't tried hard enough, you haven't bought the right supplement, or you haven't aligned your thoughts with enough positivity.
The toxic positivity is the worst.
It's an exhausting, relentless treadmill that demands continuous output while offering no permanent rest.
Running on a treadmill while wearing a weighted vest, that is exactly what it feels like. You are putting in a massive amount of physical and emotional effort, sweating, straining, and you aren't moving a single inch forward.
You're just wearing yourself out.
You're just degrading your own joints.
Yeah.
But then we step off the treadmill. We encounter the horizon of endless hope found in Psalm chapter 62, verse 5.
This is where it changes.
The landscape shifts dramatically. The Word of God says, "Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him."
Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him. The cadence of that command is profound. Notice the specific instructions. It does not say, find rest in your circumstances finally improving.
Right.
It doesn't say, find rest in the complete absence of your triggers. It says, find rest in God. In principle, too, we uncover the reality that the permanent, stable hope we have been frantically trying to purchase, manifest, or manufacture is found solely in the unchanging nature of God.
I understand the theology, but I want to push back on the application here because this is where the theory has to survive the reality of a severe panic attack.
Absolutely. It has to hold up.
When your mind is racing, when your thoughts are spiraling into worst-case scenarios and you feel that literal tightness in your chest, how do you practically command your soul to find rest?
It's not easy.
It sounds beautiful when we say it here in a calm environment at the cafe, but when you are in the middle of an emotional storm, how do you actually execute that command? How do you force a chaotic, panicked soul to rest?
The gap between knowing the verse and living the reality in the middle of a panic attack is the hardest space to navigate. To command your soul to find rest is not about forcing an emotion of calm.
Okay.
This is a massive misconception. We think finding rest means we suddenly feel peaceful and serene. It doesn't.
That's a huge relief to hear, honestly.
Right. It's not about suppressing the anxiety or pretending you aren't terrified of what is happening. To command your soul to rest means you make a deliberate, conscious decision to anchor your hope in the unchanging character of God, regardless of what regardless of what your feelings are screaming at you.
Right.
Think of it like dropping a massive iron anchor from a ship in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane.
Yeah.
Dropping the anchor does absolutely nothing to stop the wind.
The storm is still happening.
It does not flatten the 40-foot waves. The storm is still raging violently, the sky is dark, and the deck of the ship is still pitching back and forth. You are still experiencing the storm. But the anchor holds the ship.
Yeah.
It prevents you from being swept out into the open sea and destroyed. When you tell your soul to find rest in God, you are standing on the deck in the middle of the storm saying, I feel incredibly anxious right now. I feel like I'm falling apart. But my final hope is not based on how I feel in this hour. My hope is tethered to who God is. And God's character does not change based on my panic.
Dropping the anchor doesn't stop the storm, but it dictates your final location.
Exactly.
That fundamentally changes how we view a bad day. You're fully acknowledging the grim reality of the difficult day. You aren't minimizing the pain, but you are actively refusing to let the difficult day dictate your final destination.
Yeah, you don't let it win.
You finally dare to start hoping, because even on a terrible Tuesday where your mental wellness feels like it's collapsing, the hope itself remains completely intact. It's an endless hope because the source of the hope, God himself, is infinite and unchanging.
Let's slowly map out the contrast between those two realities. A hopeless end relies on a fragile human track record. It is entirely dependent on your personal energy reserves, your external circumstances, and your ability to keep a dozen spinning plates perfectly balanced.
Which is impossible.
It ends in despair because, as a human being, you will inevitably drop a plate. Your energy will run out. And endless hope relies entirely on his endless grace.
Yeah.
It is not dependent on your perfection. It is dependent on his presence. Therefore, the hope stretches out infinitely before you, an endless horizon. There is no limit to his grace, no limit to his strength, and absolutely no limit to his willingness to carry the good work in you to completion.
That reality brings a profound, heavy sense of peace. The expectation to change doesn't mean expecting flawless mental health by tomorrow morning. It means expecting that God is faithfully, relentlessly working in the deep, quiet spaces of your life, bringing about a structural transformation that will outlast your current circumstances.
So that's the tempering we talked about.
Exactly. But we have to address the elephant in the room. Knowing all of this theology, understanding the promises of Philippians and Psalms, it can still feel incredibly distant and abstract when you're sitting alone in your room on a Friday night, feeling isolated and weary.
It can feel like just words on a page.
Yes. When the physical walls close in, the theological promises can feel like a fantasy. How do we maintain this endless hope? How do we keep the expectation to change alive when we feel completely alone?
We cannot maintain it alone. That is the hard, unavoidable truth of Christian wellness. We maintain this endless hope by leaning heavily on the living proof provided by our community.
The community is everything.
The human mind is not designed to walk the road of recovery in isolation. An isolated mind becomes an echo chamber where despair is amplified and hope is muted. When our own faith is wavering, when the heavy days make us doubt the tempering process, we have to borrow the faith of the people sitting next to us. We have to look at the believers walking the same road and see the tangible, breathing evidence of God's transformative power in their lives.
The echo chamber of an isolated mind is a deadly place. It's exactly why the physical gathering of believers is not just, a nice tradition. It's a vital necessity for mental wellness.
Vital.
It breaks the cognitive distortion of terminal uniqueness, that lie that your specific brokenness is uniquely unsolvable. This is why we are so incredibly passionate about the community being built not just here in South Park, but across our entire region.
It's so important to see the bigger picture.
It is. We are fiercely connected with other believers who are doing this exact same gritty work. We have a massive, beautiful partnership with Crossroads Ministries down in Finleyville, and we need to talk about why recognizing this broader network is so crucial.
Seeing the broader network shatters the illusion of isolation. Sometimes when you are sitting in your own small group week after week, you can subtly start to feel like your little circle is the only place in the world where people are struggling in healing.
It can feel small.
Right, it can feel small. But when we connect with our brothers and sisters at Crossroads Ministries in Finleyville, we're suddenly reminded of the scale of what God is doing.
Yeah.
He is actively moving, healing, and tempering lives across the entire region. He is connecting completely different groups of believers, proving that Principle 2 is universally effective, regardless of your zip code or your background.
When you look across the room and see someone from Finleyville and someone from South Park and someone from across the city all finding common ground in the dirt of their own brokenness, It proves that the grace is real.
It really does.
The expectation to change is fueled by these shared stories. Let's talk about the gritty reality of testimony. A real testimony isn't a polished, sanitized speech.
No, it's messy.
It's someone standing up and saying, I was in the exact same dark place you're in right now. I felt the exact same crushing heaviness. I was ready to quit. And here is how God physically carried me out of it.
Yeah.
For me, there have been nights where I was completely drained, absolutely ready to walk away from my recovery. And the only thing that kept me moving forward was hearing a leader share their victory. It gives you permission to hope again.
Testimony is the ultimate antidote to despair. Because despair relies on secrecy. It thrives in the dark. It tells you that no one could possibly understand the specific depth of your weariness.
Right.
But a testimony turns a floodlight on the situation. When someone shares a raw, honest account of their struggle, they are offering you a verified roadmap out of the dark. They're looking at you and saying, I walked through that exact same dark forest.
I know where the roots are.
Exactly. I know where the roots are that will trip you up. I know how cold it gets.
Yeah.
But I found the path out. The path is real. It takes the promise of Philippians chapter 1, verse 6, and moves it from a theological concept to a living, breathing reality standing 5 feet in front of you.
Living proof. We need to look someone in the eye who has walked through the fire and see that they were not consumed by it. That changes the entire game.
It changes everything.
It's why we constantly emphasize the critical importance of showing up, of physically being in the room. You never know when the story you hear on a random Friday night is going to be the exact key that unlocks the prison of your current anxiety.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, you never know when your story, your small incremental victory, is going to be the lifeline for someone else sitting in the back row feeling completely drained.
It creates an entire ecosystem of endless hope. We sustain each other through the long tempering process. When you are strong, you carry the hope for the person sitting next to you who can barely keep their head up.
Right.
And when you are drained, they carry the hope for you. We constantly remind each other of the good work that God has begun. We point each other back to the walking partner who never leaves our side, especially when the storm is loud.
I am so deeply stirred by the weight of what we're discussing today. The realization that our slow healing is an intentional tempering process, that Jesus is actively carrying the heavy work to completion, and that we have a regional community surrounding us to prove that the endless hope is real.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but this is why we keep showing up, and we have an incredible opportunity for you to step into this exact environment. If you are listening to this and feeling the weight of isolation, you need to break the echo chamber.
Yes. We are inviting you into the room to experience the power of a shared story firsthand.
I want you to mark your calendars right now. On Friday, June 12th, starting at 6:30 p.m., we are hosting a massive event here at Peters Creek Baptist Church in South Park, Pennsylvania.
It's going to be huge.
We are bringing in a live recovery testimony from Pastor Al Finney. He is the ministry leader of the Sister Celebrate Recovery at Crossroads Ministries in Finleyville.
I can't wait for this.
And let me be very clear. If you are feeling weary, if you are quietly rationalizing giving up, if you are wondering if God can really change your deep-seated situation, you need to be in the room to hear Pastor Al Finney.
Absolutely.
It is a powerful, raw, completely unfiltered story of grace, intense struggle, and profound restoration. He does not sugarcoat the difficult days. He talks about the grit of the process.
He really does.
But he points so clearly to the God who completes the work. Hearing a live, raw story from a ministry leader who has overcome immense trials is the ultimate reminder that God is still in the business of completing the good work he starts. Sharing that physical space in the large group is the antidote you need.
Being in that room on June 12th is going to be incredibly powerful. But even if you are listening to this, and June 12th has already passed, or if you are simply looking for that continuous connection week after week to keep your anchor secure, we want to remind you of the regular rhythm we maintain here at Peters Creek Baptist Church.
Yes, every week.
Every single Friday evening, we have a deliberate structure designed to support your mental wellness. At 6:30 p.m., we gather for large group worship. This is where we lift our voices together, hear teachings, and set our collective focus on the endless hope of Christ.
It's a great time.
Following that, at 7:30 p.m., we break out into gender-specific small groups. This is the intimate safe space where you can drop the facade, share your specific struggles, find accountability, and realize you're truly not alone in the tempering process.
Yeah, that's where the real work happens.
And finally, at 8:30 p.m., we open up the Crosstalk Cafe. This is where the fellowship deepens over coffee, where real friendships are forged, and where the heavy burdens of the week are lightened through shared laughter and support.
6:30 a.m., large group worship. 7:30 a.m., gender-specific small groups. 8:30 p.m., Crosstalk Cafe. That is the weekly rhythm of grace. Now, if you are listening to this from outside our region and you cannot make it to South Park, Pennsylvania, do not let distance be the excuse that keeps you isolated.
There's always a group near you.
Exactly. You can head directly to crlocator.com. Just type in your zip code and find a group meeting near you. The community is out there and they are waiting to share the burden with you.
And if you have any questions, if you are feeling overwhelmed and just needs someone to pray with you, or if you need more information about what we do, please reach out. Do not carry your questions alone. You can email Craig Amstone directly at craig.amstone@gmail.com.
Right.
Or you can contact the church office at info@pcbc.gartchurch. We are here. Your community is ready.
We have covered profound, heavy ground today. We have dismantled the demand for instant results. We have explored the deep comfort of Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. And we have anchored ourselves in the endless hope of Psalm 62.
It's been a deep conversation.
It really has. But we do not want you to just turn this audio off and walk away with a fleeting sense of comfort. We want to send you into this week with a challenge that requires active engagement.
We want you to deeply consider the weight of these promises. They are not poetic ideas meant to make you feel warm. They are structural realities meant to hold your weight when your mind is heavy.
So as you walk into this new week, as you face the inevitable friction, the Tuesday morning dread, or the Friday night weariness, I want you to carry this final challenging question with you.
Listen closely.
If you truly believed that the creator of the universe was actively holding the blueprint of your healing right now and absolutely refusing to let it fail, what is one specific, heavy burden you would finally give yourself permission to drop today?
Wow.
Think about a weight of that. Let him carry it. We will see you next time at the cafe. Remember, he is walking beside you through every single step.